Hello there. Hello, hello, hello. So I did not get a chance to play the intro, but we'll put the intro on. Maybe we'll put the intro on now while we're waiting for everyone to come. Bear with me 1 second. I am a one-woman production show, guys. Here we go. Here is the intro.
Along, rise and shine. Come along and rise and shine. Come on and shine. Come along and ride on a life walk a journey. Life walk a journey. Yeah. Come along and ride on a life walk a journey. Yeah.
Well, hello there, everybody. Hopefully, we get some folks. This notification will go out, and people will come and join us tonight. Thank you for being so patient. I know that I was not on here yesterday for the Sunday Soul podcast, but my name is Lisa, and at this channel, at Heart of Inspiration, we help you lead a whole and healed, peaceful, and prosperous life. I wanted to talk this week about being a wounded healer. I titled this podcast Confessions of Chiron, and hopefully most of you know the story of Chiron, but if you don't, I am going to just read it off to you. The story in mythology of Chiron. So Chiron can be like one of the most misunderstood asteroids, misunderstood placements, I think, in anyone's sign. Chiron really reveals our deepest wounds, our Achilles heels, the places that we can be hurt the most. And the crazy thing is, those are also the places that we tend to attract people towards the most. And those are the places that we end up trying to hide, from, or we don't want to admit to, or we don't want to recognize. Okay. So as the story goes, and welcome to everybody that's coming into the chat now on YouTube. As the story goes, Chiron in Greek mythology was a centaur. He was not just any old centaur. He was a centaur that was immortal, and he was the greatest of all the healers. The centaurs in Greek mythology were the healers. They were half man, half horse, and they had mystical powers, to some degree or another. But Chiron was a great one. Chiron, you could bring any illness and any element to Chiron, and Chiron would be able to heal it. Okay? He would be able to heal it. He would know the tinctures, and he would know the herbs, and he would know the spells, if you will. He would know all the things, all the Reikis and all of that. He was the greatest healer. And the gods came to him. For those of you who don't know, here we go, here are my notes. Chiron was one of the centaurs, the son of Titan Kronos. So he was the son of time, of Father Time, Kronos, Saturn, and Philyra, an Oceanid or a sea nymph. So he was timeless. He had the beautiful healing properties of the sea and of the ocean. And he was not subject to time because his father was time itself. So he had this beautiful way of being on this earth and walking between the grids and living between the grids. He was not violent or savage. He was famous for his wisdom and his knowledge of medicine. Many Greek heroes, including Hercules, Achilles, Jason, and Acephalus, were instructed by him. Now again, continuing on the story. Chiron frequently appears in the legends of his grandson, Peleus, and his great-grandson, Achilles. Achilles was his grandson. This is where we get Achilles' heel from. What is your Achilles' heel? It's that, you know where your Achilles tendon is, right? In the back of your ankle. And man, if you do something to the Achilles heel, that is a pain that doesn't go away. And it is a pain, and Achilles tendon injury is very difficult to heal. It's a very sensitive, very, I don't want to say fragile, but it's open to possible injury. He was accidentally pierced by a poison arrow shot by Heracles. Okay? And Heracles was his best friend. So Heracles was, he was kind of a jokester and a trickster. He was one of the minor gods, kind of the hero minor gods. And he was just shooting off arrows. He didn't necessarily mean to hit Chiron, but he was shooting off these arrows kind of willy-nilly, and then Chiron was kind of going around and healing people after they got hit with this poison arrow. And one of the arrows hit Chiron. And Chiron was just like, why weren't you more careful? Why weren't you paying attention? He was so unbelievably wounded, but he could not heal himself because he could not heal his heart. And so he would go through and be continually wounded and wounded and wounded and wounded and wounded and wounded. And it would heal, and then it would fester and heal and fester and heal and fester. And it was this ugly cycle of healing and then re-injury and healing and re-injury. And Heracles would repeatedly ask for forgiveness and repeatedly say he was sorry. But there was really nothing he could do. So in order to finally heal himself, he renounces immortality in favor of Prometheus. So Prometheus was then made immortal and was placed amongst the stars as the constellation Centaurus. Now Prometheus, some of you may know, let me go to Prometheus' story because that also helps us. Prometheus is one of the Titans. He is the supreme trickster and a god of fire. His intellectual side was emphasized by the apparent meaning of his name was forethinker. So Chiron gave up his immortality to the forethinker. It's commonly believed that he developed into a master craftsman, and in this connection he was associated with fire and the creation of mortals. But we're going to focus in on Chiron. And I want to focus in on why Chiron's death, what that signifies to us as wounded healers. You see, as a wounded healer myself, I can own that. I can tell you that there have been certain people, but they really represent specific energies that repeatedly over and over again, I would involve myself in these situations and repeatedly get hurt because every time I thought I'll get here and get to it and I'll get to this person and I'll work with this person and man, they feel like they're my best friend or good friend. And I believe that, they mean me well and everything's going to be okay. And if I can just help them see the error of their ways. Chiron was trying to help Heracles see the error of his ways. Don't be shooting these poison arrows just willy-nilly. I got to run around and clean up your mess. I have to run around here and heal these people. And Heracles knew that he could heal them. So he just kept doing it. What energies are you allowing in your life? Wounded healer. Repeatedly, over and over and over again. because it's the mess maker that you know. You see, if I'm going to confess as Chiron, I'm going to tell you that I rather liked picking up after other people. I love being the healer. I love being the one that you come to and that I channel spirit and miraculous things happen. And they don't happen because of me. They happen because of spirit. They happen because of the connection I have with spirit. That's why they happen. And I just get to be this wonderful vessel. And I get to triage and I get to say, I see what's going on with you. Let's fix it together. I love it. But then when I go to bed at night, I'm tired. And I'm crying, or I'm just sad sometimes. Because there's no one necessarily that I have to talk to. Now, that's not the case for me now, so please don't feel sorry for me. Don't cry for me, Argentina. My voice is barely coming back. But the wounded healer, we hide our own wounds. So, Chiron would go around and healing people, and he had this wound over here, and he'd cover it up or bandage it up, and as he'd heal, but then the wound would begin to ooze because that bandage is only going to hold so much. And it's only going to be a matter of time before you turn the wrong way and you might rip the stitches or rip off the Band-Aid. So the wounded healer, as a wounded healer, as one who has come out of her wounds, as one that has begun to heal her wounds, but then also recognize that these are wounds on this planet, in this time, in this incarnation, that are not going to be healed fully. Because part of the reason I have this pain is to continue on in my purpose. Part of the reason I've been through everything I've been through is so that I can help the next one. So I can help all of you. So I can be a beacon of light for all of you. Hey, Allie girl. You guys go check out Allie Kane Taylor, Spiritual Journey on TikTok. She's wonderful. So my pain, your pain, wounded healer, your pain, Chiron, gives you keys to your purpose. That pain, whilst we can heal it to a great degree and take up the roots that keep us and bind us and restrict us from being able to execute and live in our purpose, that pain's never going to go away. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. The only way that pain went away for Chiron is he died to self. He gave up his immortality to forethought. We're going to let that sit there a little bit. To forethought and fire. Yeah, forethought and fire. That's a little deep. He gave up his immortal life so that he could finally heal the wound. He gave up his third dimensional life so that he could have fifth dimensional immortality, true peace. Now, this sounds super doomy and gloomy, doesn't it? Not my usual perky. Hey, here we go. While the pain, the injury is never going to truly be healed, what I can tell you is you can get to the point where you identify what that immortal wound is or should I say the mortal wound is, and decide to begin to transform from it. Decide to begin to die to self in it. So for me, my Chiron is in Aries and in the third house. So my mortal wound, in some ways, in one way that I know for sure, is I have a tendency when people question or, when I feel like they're questioning my thought process or my intellect, my passion, my whatever, who I am at a core level, when they are questioning who I am and my I am presence, that can hurt me. And I used to get super defensive. And even from time to time, I will find myself getting defensive now. I will find myself playing that game of, holy crap, did you just insinuate that I have acted in anything less than integrity? Or did you just insinuate that my plan was completely stupid? Or did you just insinuate that I am less than a highly intelligent human being or being, period? I used to get on that, and I'm not the only one now. I used to really get on that horse. And I used to really go off like a bottle rocket. If I thought you were insulting me in my core being and my intellect, because this is in the third house, and my ideas that come from the intellectual stimulation, they are super important to me. I'm a fast, passionate thinker. Fast and passionate. Take that how you will. But I'm a fast, passionate thinker, and I come up with a new idea and a new structure because I also have Saturn in Aries in my third house as well, and my moon. Okay. So you mix all that together, I'm going to get really hurt if you don't, not affirm. You don't have to agree with me, but if you come off in a condescending manner or if I perceive it as condescending, right? I'm going to get super mad. Super mad. I used to. I don't anymore. I don't. Because I recognized that about myself. And while that is something that's never going to quite go away, it's manageable because I had to die to the ego of that. I had to look in past lives and see, and look in this current life and see, why do I feel that way? Who kept insulting the bejeebers out of me? What's going on? Why does it matter so much what other people think about my ideas? Why does it matter so much that people don't follow me right away and they don't see the value in what I'm presenting immediately? Why does that matter? I had to get good with me, but it still haunts me. And so now when I work with people that have come through an intellectual path to spirituality, I can help them tremendously. The other thing that Chiron and Aries, or one of the other things that does for me, because it is squaring my sun. I have Cancer in the 7th house. It squares my sun and my rising, Cap rising. So the other thing that Chiron does in there is I have this Cancerian need to fix everybody. But I have felt that I am unfixable, that I'm not worthy of fixing. I can fix everybody else but me. That's a wound. I can see everybody else have great success. And sometimes it's hard for me to see my own. I can believe in everybody else and build everybody else up. But because in the past, as I ascended to certain heights in my past lives, as I brought forward all these great new ideas in my past lives, new ways of thinking, innovations, right? New ways of viewing your own divinity. As I brought this forward in past lives, I can tell you there's 3 or 4 of them I was killed for it. Didn't end well for the girl, okay? That's a wound now I carry in this lifetime. When I look at the wounded healer, I also look at past lives. What happened? Where'd you get it from? How did it occur? That's a wound I have to realize. That's a karma I carry. That's a burden. And it's something that keeps me out of a ton of, like, out of ego. But sometimes it has been in my past a hamper. It's been an obstacle, because what that did is then I started choosing the wrong people to be in relationship with, whether it was romantic or platonic or business. I chose people that used me because I saw the potential in them and I wanted to help them. I saw the hurt in them. I wanted to heal them. And I could feel and sense and see immediately how their foundation needed to be changed. But I couldn't change my own. It's Confessions of a Wounded Healer. It's still the same thing. Don't cry for me, Argentina. Don't cry for me. We're good. But these are some of the wounds I've had to face. What wounds are you hiding that you're too scared to talk about? What wounds are you hiding that in actuality, if you would deal with them and transmute them, you would then be so free? Because then you can look at this for what it is and then begin to say, I'm not going to allow this to run my life. I'm not going to allow this to take over all the time. I'm not going to allow this to be a wound that oozes and seeps and gets reinfected each time I turn around. You have to get to the point where your ego moves out of your way enough, and it is ego to be a martyr. I was being a martyr. Especially my romantic relationships. Are you kidding me? Honey, I'd get them. What is that song? The Cleanup Woman. I would clean them up, baby. They'd be just as terrible and not ready for a relationship, not ready for a family. And I'd clean them all up and get them all purdied up. And then they'd leave me. Huh? In all actuality, I was choosing a man that needed to be fixed up. I was choosing a fixer-upper because I was much more comfortable being the fixer-upper. I needed to be the fixer. And in all actuality, it wasn't that they necessarily left me, but it was also that I energetically pushed them away because they no longer needed my cleanup services. Now let that sink in for a second, beloved. They no longer needed my cleanup services. My job was done. So I would repeatedly create that wound. I did the same thing in my friendships. I did the same thing in every job that I chose. My career would be going sky high and it'd be going up and up, and I would do something to help somebody else become the king. I'd be the kingmaker. And then once they became the kingmaker, they was also a snake. So they'd turn around and bite me. And then I'd be like, well, what'd you bite me for? And they'd be like, I was always a snake in the first place. So you see what I'm saying? So I did the same thing over and 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 over again. And when I would be ministering to people all over the country, you know what else used to happen? I'd take on their burdens. All of a sudden, especially the people in the staff and the ministerial staff, I would take those burdens on as my own. Because again, I'm the fixer. But all the while, I needed fixing. I desperately needed healing. I desperately needed to die to self. I desperately needed to stop being the martyr, because it was real easy to talk to all my good girlfriends later on, or my good guy friends, or my good ministry friends, and they'd be like, well, what happened? It was so and so. Oh my goodness, do you know what happened? I did all this for them. All this for them. And they turned around and bit me in my butt and did me dirty and kicked me to the curb. Oh, you poor baby. Oh, you poor thing. I was being a martyr. I wasn't being a healer. I was being a martyr. I was collecting the pity party points. Now that's just some real talk. That's some goddess talk right there. That's some real talk. So the question then becomes, beloved, at what point are we going to turn the mirror to ourselves and say, we're tired of being the wounded healer and continuing to injure ourselves? Yes, the original injury might have been done by somebody else, but at some point we got to wake up and say that we've done it to ourselves over and over and over again. And we expect a different result when we're dealing with the same shit. So it's time. It's time, wounded healer. And I'm confessing, right? This is what I've gone through. It's time to get up off. Ooh, I'm going to say this. Take yourself off that cross. Didn't nobody nail you up there? Didn't nobody ask you to climb up there? Didn't nobody ask you to sacrifice yourself for the sake of others? It's time for you to clean up your own wounds. And the way that we stop the cycles of the deep wounds where they're not consistently repeating and we can overcome them is by dying to self, is by giving up the immortal wound that is plaguing us, dying to self, and then living on with forethought, living on with seeing in the future, living on with being part of the creative construct that is the group that is helping humanity raise their vibration. Living on in our most beautiful, higher consciousness, light worker self. That's where we then gain true immortality, right? Now we have that, but you understand what I'm saying. But that's the only way to heal the wound that we refuse to let go. And what happens with that energy then is it becomes transmuted and part of our foundation rather than being a consistently oozing, icky, disgustingly infected wound. That's where the wounded healer rises and becomes the phoenix. That's where the wounded healer really gains their ability. I want to be able to see your chat. The wounded healer gains the abilities to heal thyself because you must die to self. You must die to self. Yes, Marilyn. Marilyn says it comes from an abusive childhood that made you feel unworthy and not trusting others. Yes. But at some point, though, it's time to stop being a martyr. So what does that relate? How does that relate? And I want you all to think about things like that. I want you all to think about what are the consistent ways that people hurt you over and over and over and over and over again. And then I want you to see, this is the hard part, as an adult, to see your role now as an adult in attracting that consistent injury into your world. When you're able to see that, beloved, when you're able to say, this is where I bear some responsibility for the life that I'm living now. Yes, that may have happened in the past, but what you going to do for yourself now? Because you're no longer, see, this is the other thing about the wounded healer. And I'm talking about myself. I ain't talking about nobody else. But if the shoe fits, okay, put it on. For years and years and years and years and years and years and years, I didn't, another big thing for me was you were never going to have more money than me in a relationship. Money was very important to me. Now that came from my father, because my father would always say, things like he paid a cost to be the boss. Y'all know that saying. Some of y'all know that saying. Some of y'all ain't old enough. Some of y'all wasn't outside for that one. Or, he who makes the money makes the rules. Or he would make a big point of the fact that he was the sole breadwinner in the house, independent of the fact that my mother took care of everything else. So, saying all that, as I got into college, I told him I didn't want none of his money, because I didn't want him to have no say-so over anything I did. And I swear to you, from 17 on, I made sure that whomever I was with as a man did not make more money than me. It was a thing. Now, that was a level of control, if I'm going to be honest. Because I paid the cost to be the boss. Now, I might cook for you, and I still might clean. But I brought in most of this money, so whatever I say, go. You're hearing me? So, but that's a level of insecurity on my part. Or that was a level of insecurity on my part. I had to kill that off. I had to own what my part was in it. Yes, it was derived from my father as a child. But I'm an adult now. I get to choose now what I do with all that childhood information that was downloaded into my system, some of which I keep, a lot of which I don't. Or I use it in a different way. So we have to take the accountability for what we're doing with our lives right now. CHIRON, at any point in time, had he not been feeling sorry for himself, I believe, could have healed himself. But he was so hurt. He was just so, I bet you he was a cancer. Oh, God, I can't believe you did that. Oh, Heracles, I can't believe you did that. You're my best friend. And you put an arrow in my side. He was probably a cancer moon. Wouldn't let it go away because you know us cancers, we'll gnaw bone till it's broke. Ain't no meat on it. Ain't no nothing on it. Ain't no flavor left, but we gonna keep that bone. Listen. At any time, he could have healed himself. At any time, he could have got past it. At any time, he could have let it go. Let it go, right? But he chose to be the martyr. So at some point, we have to decide we're going to take accountability for what we're doing with this energy that we've been given, and what we're doing with the downloads and the programs we've been programmed. Are we going to delete the program? Are we going to rewrite the program? What are we doing with it? Or are we just going to continue to let it operate in our lives? So it continues to injure us, and we continue to bring in the very same energy to injure us that we love to heal. Because wounded healer, you attract in the same energy that you love to heal, that you need to heal from yourself. Now, why do I say that pain then points you in the direction of your purpose? Because that very pain of not feeling like I was enough, of not believing that I could be successful in and of itself, of believing and knowing that there was so much more to life than what we were given right here. The injury that I suffered or saw because watching my mother go through a very abusive relationship, domestic violence relationship, and my brothers going through the same thing, but not me. All of that has fostered and created who I am today. So it's very easy. I know y'all probably hear that cat. I'm not letting that cat in here. It makes it easy now for me to have the academy, for me to have retreats, for me to be a Reiki master, all of these things. And for me to deal especially with women, but also with men that have dealt with emotionally abusive parents, emotionally and physically abusive relationships, all of that, because I've lived it, or even I've lived it outside of it and I've seen it, but I've been involved in that level of fear, and I've decided to come out on the other side different. But I had to go through all of these other problems and see the result of all of that in order for me to be able to help people heal. Does that make sense? But at some point, you got to decide you're going to heal. At some point, there's got to be a decision you make. At some point, you have to die to self and die to your ego in order to live in your passion and your purpose. Right? Because Prometheus then went on to help create humans. And Prometheus went on to have great power and inspiration and bring great technology and evolutionary advancements to humanity. But in order for him to be able to do that throughout all of eternity, the wounded healer had to die. So my confessions of a wounded healer are this: there will always be a bit of that wound there. Don't kid yourself. But you don't have to wallow in the self-pity of it. You can choose to rise above it. Now, wasn't gonna be with y'all very long today, so that's what I have for you. I think that's enough for y'all to chew on tonight. Enough for y'all to chew on. Listen, guys, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. If you like these podcasts, please share them. They're also on Spotify. I think I have the link down there and a few other of the streaming services. We're trying to get them on iTunes now, or whatever the i thing is, the Apple version, Apple Music. I'm so dated. And also down below, you're going to see the link. I finally have it all ready to go. We're doing an Unleash Your Divine retreat at the end of June 26th and 27th. It is power packed. We're going to be going through like sacral geometry and activating your light language and activating your psychic abilities and activating your quantum manifestation abilities or manifesting in the metaphysical and so much more. It's 2 days. I've put together this beautiful divine box. I'll probably call it a divinity box, but I'm calling it a divine box right now. And I'm so excited because in this divine box is going to be an organ, lapis lazuli, and black tourmaline crystal sphere to ward off negative energies, to also ward off and protect you against EMF frequencies, but to also open up this crown chakra and the divine channel. We're going to have a Merkaba. It's a beautiful little crystal. It's a 7-chakra Merkaba stone that you can use while you are meditating. We're going to have other sacred geometric crystals for you. A couple of decks are going to be in there, and I'm trying to source some wonderful books as well for you on sacred geometry and crystal gridding. So it's going to be really, really awesome. It's all the way at the end of June. The link is down below for more information and for you to register. You'll register and then you'll get another email. The total cost is $333, $333, and I even have payment plans for y'all. So don't tell me I did not give you any Rona relief, okay? So go on down there and check that out and register today. Those of you that are students in the academy in the counselor, the spiritual counselor, energy practitioner certification, you can register, but I'll tell you about some special pricing for you. And by the way, if you're interested in getting certified as a spiritual counselor and energy healer, there's a bit.ly link down below. Why don't you click that and book a call with me? And let's see if it makes sense for you to be a part of the certification program, okay? We want as many light workers as possible. We're resetting the clock on the goal, and we're starting fresh. So starting June 1st, 100 light workers in 100 days, all right? Let's get it. Let's go. Peace, love, blessings, and joy be unto you today, tomorrow, and for all eternity. I love you guys tremendously. Namaste. Bye-bye. Eventually, I'll say goodbye.